Have you ever wondered if there's maybe some kind of invisible web connecting ideas, or maybe even people's shared intentions across different places? What if that collective focus wasn't just, a metaphor, but something that could actually be channeled and used in some surprisingly practical ways? Today, we're taking a deep dive into something called linking sigils. Our mission, really, is to unpack what these symbols are, how they're supposed to work, the most famous example, and also how people have used them to, well, literally infuse intent into the world around them.
Yeah, it's a really compelling concept because, these aren't just abstract symbols you draw on paper. They're often described as being almost like an electrical system, if you will, for transferring energy or intention. And if you kind of zoom out a bit, you can start to see how they could be potentially a powerful shortcut for channeling collective focus, essentially creating a shared, accessible, energetic network.
Okay, so this electrical system idea for energy transfer. Let's get down to basics then. At its core, what exactly is a personal linking sigil? Is it simply about moving energy from point A to point B?
Pretty much, yeah. Fundamentally, a personal linking sigil is designed specifically to transfer energy, or maybe intention, between connected points. Think of it like you're creating a circuit, right, where multiple locations are linked up, allowing that energy to flow back and forth between them. They operate on these magical principles like the law of association.
Ah, right, the idea that things linked conceptually can influence each other.
Exactly. And also the magical law of similarity, like affects like. So it's less like just doodling a symbol and much more like designing a custom magical servitor.
A servitor, so like
Yeah,
a purpose-built magical entity.
precisely. Engineered specifically for this task of energy transfer.
That's a really interesting foundation.
Yeah.
And speaking of specific examples, I understand there's one linking sigil that really stands out in the modern lore, the Ellis linking sigil. Tell us a bit about where that came from.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. The Ellis sigil is by far the most famous one. It came out of the chaos magic tradition, which is a pretty modern magical approach, very experimental, results-focused. It was developed by this group called DKMU, the Domus Chaotica Marauder Underground, back around 2004.
Okay, DKMU, 2004. So what was the original idea behind creating something like Ellis? Were they trying to make this widely accessible tool from the start? And, well, what happened when they let it loose?
Well, the original purpose was pretty ambitious, actually. The idea was to link locations that were believed to have, significant magical power, and crucially, to create a network of energy that could be accessed by magical practitioners from any kind of background or belief system, no gatekeeping, and it really did gain incredible fame, incredible power through all this experimental magic. And kind of remarkably, people reported it started to behave as if it were intelligent.
Behaving as if intelligent, that sounds incredibly powerful. But it also makes you wonder, with something so potent and well open, were there any downsides, any problems or complaints about it?
That's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit messy. One of the big issues was the complete lack of oversight, because literally anyone could tap into this network. Some less experienced users found its nature pretty chaotic, maybe more than they bargained for.
Okay, chaotic energy. That makes sense if it's uncontrolled.
Right. But the truly surprising thing, the really unexpected development, was the emergence of this entity called Ellis, which, is a clever play on LS for linking sigil.
Ah, I see that now.
Yeah, and she's described as an egregore.
An egregore, like a collective thought form.
Yeah.
Created by group energy.
Exactly. A sort of psychic entity created by the combined mental energy and attention of everyone focusing on it. And this specific egregore, Ellis, reportedly manifested as a red-headed trickster goddess of chaos magic, literally formed, they say, by all the power and attention being poured into that sigil network.
Wow. A tripster goddess, literally born from a sigil network. That's quite a twist. So, okay, for anyone listening who might be intrigued by this whole Ellis story and maybe wants to explore the idea themselves, what if they wanted to create their own personal linking sigil? What does that process look like? How do you set up your own little energetic network?
Right. Well, it's actually quite a structured process,
Yeah.
almost like programming it in a way. First, you have to set a very clear, singular intent. Your sigil will connect only to other copies of your exact same design carrying your specific intent. That limitation is important.
Got it. Keep it contained.
Exactly. Second, you draw a unique, simple design for it. Needs to be distinct, easily recognizable to you. Think of it like your personal energetic fingerprint. Third, you give your sigil a unique, private name, and you keep that name completely to yourself. It acts like a key, basically.
Okay, private name.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Fourth, you actually create a dedicated document, sometimes called a servitor sheet. This describes all its specific qualities, its personality, if you want to give it one, and the magical powers it's supposed to have. Fifth, you charge it, imbue it with energy, just like you charge any other sigil or servitor, standard magical practice there. And finally, the sixth step, to actually use it, you need to draw that exact same sigil in at least 2 different physical places. That establishes the connection and allows the energy to start flowing between those points.
That's a surprisingly clear roadmap. So, okay, we know how to potentially create one, but how are these things actually used in practice? What are some of the different ways people apply Ellis, or maybe their own personal linking sigils? How do they, as the sources put it, enchant their daily lives with this?
Yeah, thinking about the applications, they're actually pretty diverse. It's not just one thing. They can have some interesting real-world impacts. For instance, you can use one just as a side component in other magical work. You might just place the sigil on your altar or draw it inside a ritual circle, basically just to add extra juice, extra energy to what you're already doing.
Okay, like an amplifier.
Exactly. They're also used for something called tagging for input into the web. This means connecting, say, specific magical places, or even abstract concepts or physical objects, connecting them into the network as a kind of shared resource others could potentially access, if it's a shared sigil like Ellis.
Creating a sort of energetic library or resource pool?
Kind of, yeah. Then there's one of the more intriguing uses, destabilizing or enchanting concrete reality. The idea here is you use the sigil to activate or sort of boost the magical vibes, let's say, of places that feel energetically dull or stagnant. You're trying to create these little bubbles of reality that are more aligned with certain intentions.
Changing the atmosphere of a place. Interesting.
Right. And then there's blast tagging. This is where people openly display the sigil in very visible public locations. The idea is to subtly share its essence, almost like, enchanting daily lives in a small way, leaving a little spark of wonder or chaos in an otherwise mundane environment.
Like magical graffiti almost.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And finally, of course, users can just tap directly into the sigil's energy stream, channeling that accumulated power to boost their own rituals, charge up talismans, or fuel other kinds of direct energetic work.
Those are some really creative and surprisingly practical sounding applications. You mentioned practical. There was that really vivid story in the sources about drawing on ambient energy in a very specific, very high energy place. Can you walk us through that experiment?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great example. There was this experiment where someone designed 2 personal sigils. Important distinction there, not Ellis. One sigil was specifically for receiving energy and the other was for sending it. And then they made about, I think it was 100 photocopies of each one.
100 copies.
Okay.
And the location they chose was Times Square in New York City, which, I mean, anyone who's been there knows. It's often called the crossroads of the universe, right? Just think about it. People from every walk of life producing massive amounts of energy every single day. It's a sensory, energetic overload. So, fascinating choice for this kind of work.
Exactly. It's just teeming with that raw, unfiltered human energy. Perfect for tapping into. And the places they put these copied sigils were quite strategic and honestly kind of funny. They were hidden under tables at bars, stuck inside bodegas, and even placed behind toilets in public restrooms.
Behind toilets? Seriously?
Yep. Anywhere people would congregate, spend time, and just naturally generate that ambient emotional or mental energy. High traffic, high emotion spots.
So the whole point then was to try and siphon off some of that massive ambient energy constantly swirling around Times Square and then use it somehow to manifest something specific or just boost their own personal magic.
That was precisely the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
To draw on that collective output and channel it, infuse it into their own workings.
Okay. So bringing this all together, beyond the specifics of chaos magic or these particular sigils, what does this all mean for you, the listener? What's the bigger takeaway here?
Well, ultimately, I think linking sigils, whether you're talking about a famous complex egregore like Ellis or the potential of creating your own personal private network, they really illustrate a powerful underlying idea. It's this concept that collective energy and focused intention can create something tangible, something accessible, a network of power, essentially. It suggests it's maybe more than just symbolism. It could be about the deliberate channeling of shared focus.
Right. And that definitely leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on.
Yeah.
Consider the places you go to regularly, your workplace, your commute route, maybe your favorite cafe. What unseen energetic connections might already exist there? What kind of collective energy, positive or negative, could be circulating in those spaces you inhabit? And taking it a step further, what kind of powerful network of intent might you tap into or even consciously create if you were to explore this concept yourself. What really stands out to you about how easily maybe intent and focus could be amplified when they're given a specific tangible form, like a sigil?
A friend told me this meditation one time, and